Well, we have here a Raptor that's, well, I know it's fresh from the casa, but it already has a lot of accessories installed in a span of a week. So it's got the roof rack, it's got wheels, it's got that skid plate thingy, it's got a roller lid, and obviously it's time for more power. We've done several Raptors before, long full exhaust, but this is the first time we'll be documenting everything from start to finish. So this is literally a 100% stock Raptor. Let's check the mileage on what it is. Oh, it's 2,000 kilometers, so it's already broken in, so that's not bad. It's all very nice. This is very nice too. So what we're gonna be doing here is Unichip remap and then a full exhaust. Actually, full exhaust first, then a Unichip remap. So first things first, we're gonna be dynoing the car here, and then uh, this is some information that I'll be showing that hopefully the people in Ford do not look at. So, because it's there's a way to tell if your car's been remapped or not. Because you're wondering why we're going to be doing unit shift set of ECU remap for this car. One of the simplest reasons is that Ford, if they know how, if the technicians here know how to do it, they can tell if the car is remapped or not. It's actually not a new thing. Some of the other cars that we do, Monteros, Fortuners, Hondas, they all have a thing called a ECU flash counter. So it's default at one because the first time that you load the program is so the counter ticks at one. So next time you load the software again, it becomes two, becomes three. So normally it should almost always just be one. In the case of Ford, usually what happens is with their technical service bulletins, every so often you will get a notice from the dealership that, hey, please come in for new software updates. So that is them flashing in new software also. And Ford themselves, the Ford software does not have a flash counter, but there is a way to indirectly see if your car's been flashed or not. So that's why we'll be opting to use the Unichip because that is one that leaves absolutely no footprint on the ECU. There's no trace whatsoever. When you unplug everything, nothing. They can stick in their diagnostic software as in they won't see a thing that's been changed in the ECU. So, and we're the only ones who can remap the Ford anyway, so we already know the difference between how much power a remap can make and what the Unichip can make. So between the two, I can tell you off the bat, Unichip makes more power. So we're gonna run you through on how the Unichip is installed, bit by bit. So all the plugs, all the harnesses, we're gonna be installing, and then we're gonna be dynoing and showing you the results afterwards. So, but first things first, we do a baseline of the car, and yeah, we'll do the baseline of the car. Okay, so you may be wondering why still doing Unichip when remap is an option for the Ranger Raptor. Well, there are a couple of reasons, and the biggest one is this one. If I'm able to find it on the internet, so can other people. So this is basically a general service bulletin from Ford. This is pretty much Ford USA, but it'll apply to pretty much any Ford dealership in the country. This document basically tells you the dealership there, a guide to identifying failures related to performance modification. So doesn't get any much more clearer than that. It's for it says gas performance modification, but gas diesel is pretty much the same. Diesel gasoline engines from Ford, like the EcoBoost, have a turbocharger. The diesels have a turbocharger too, and they operate pretty much the same way. They have the same sensor. They have a map sensor, boost, uh, uh, turbo actuator, turbo solenoid, so on and so forth. So the same thing. More interestingly, there is a flow chart here that outlines when your warranty is to be denied. First and foremost, we have to clarify two things. There's one thing called warranty voided, and the other is called warranty denied. Those are two totally different things. Warranty voided is basically the whole vehicle has no warranty. That's just it. Warranty void. It's like when you buy a new cell phone, there's a sticker there that says, "Take the sticker off, warranty voided." So no ifs, no buts. The entire vehicle is voided. That doesn't really apply much to cars because for cars it's called a warranty claim. So meaning that whatever that specifically here, whatever that you do as a modification has to be related to the part that failed. So example, you change your wheels and tires and then suddenly your power window stops working. Then you bring it in for warranty. That is covered by warranty. So this flowchart basically, it's more for the engine, but it pretty much says the same thing. It starts with, does it have any error codes? Yes or no. Then you follow the flowchart. The, there are two endpoints here. So one endpoint is obviously deny warranty. So the other endpoint here is repair under warranty. The more interesting thing here is that here, there's this one here. Has OEM calibration been modified? So meaning has it been remapped or reflashed? So there's a yes and a no. So if yes, failure consistent with aftermarket calibration, yes or no. So there are two things. So again, let's say you have your engine remapped, then suddenly there's knocking sound in the suspension or your shock absorbers start leaking. That is not related to the ECU, so that is still covered under warranty. So this will fall under the no, check for hardware modifications. So also no, then repair under warranty. But if it's pretty much anything engine related, you can consider your engine warranty gone and screwed. So this is the kicker here. Now, how do they know if it's been modified? It actually, the next few pages details the usual stuff that we see. Blah, 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 blah. That's so pictures of engine component failure. So piston rings, piston. There's even a piston cracking, spark plug bad, bent connecting rod, overheated torque converter, so on and so forth. And this is how they do it. Ford itself does, in their software, does not have a flash counter. Other vehicles do, but Ford doesn't. Our software that we don't use for remapping can count the number of times a car has been remapped, so we can see it. For the Ford ones, they don't, but here's how they do it. They go to their software, and then what they basically do is they go to the menu and scroll down here to, it's a little bit small, make it a bit bigger. There's a test mode that they see, and then there's what we call the mode 9 vehicle information. Then what they look at is the ignition counter. So abbreviated as IGN counter, ignition counter. Ignition counter basically means that how many times you start the vehicle. So the vehicles, brand new, will have a counter of 0. So the factory will start it once to put it on the drive cycle and then to drive it off to the port. So by the time that you actually get your car, the ignition counter may be something like 10 or 15. So that's the number of times the car's been started and driven off. So here's an ignition count. So 357. So that the car's been started 357 times. The assumption, this comes with a couple of assumptions, by the way. So the assumption is when you buy the car and you use it every day, you will start it at least twice in a day. Once in the morning to get to work, once at work to get home. So the number of days multiplied by 2 is what the ignition counter should be in one whole year. So that's roughly about 700. Assuming you work 6 days, assuming you work 6 days a year, it's around 700, probably more. So 700 to about maybe 1,000 is normal for 1 year's worth of driving. So assuming once you remap the car, this counter goes back to 0. Now remember our first one, so 1,000 starts and stops in 1 year. So assuming that in 2 years, you bring in your vehicle, you remap it, something goes wrong, you bring your vehicle, they check this counter and they see that that counter has less than 2,000, something like maybe 50 or 30 or anything less than the value of 2,000, and they look at the mileage too. So in 2 years, the assumption is you've driven about maybe 16,000 kilometers. So if you have an ignition count of even say 300, it's impossible that you drove 15,000 kilometers in half a year. That does not happen. So this is an indirect way for Ford to see if your ECU's been remapped or not. And there is no way to change that. It's like the internal clock of the CPU. You cannot change it. Remapping does not get rid of it. Remapping cannot change that value. That value is just it's really triggered by the on and it's a mechanical trigger by the on and off of your key. No amount of software will be able to change that. Uh, that's just one way. The other way that I found also aside from that is this one. The other way that Ford can tell is they'll screw through that test mode, that F9 mode, then they can see all the vehicle information here. So as you can see here, there's a cylinder misfire count. This one also resets to 0. So if you have so this was an example of the thing has been freshly reflashed, then they read it, misfire, 0%. Everything here is 0, so that does not happen. There are misfires in the car every single time. Ignition is not a perfect science. Combustion temperatures from cylinder to cylinder may vary by a few degrees and all of that. So this cannot possibly be 0. So once they see that this is also some abnormally low number, then that means the vehicle's been remapped already. So hence, and here in the Philippines, Ford is a real pain in the ass to deal with when it comes to warranties. There are brands that are more lenient to warranty. Ford is not one of them. So hence why we use Unichip for the Ranger Raptor and the 2-liter engines that are now, even the single turbo ones, because this one does not mess with any of this stuff. The ECU information inside remains the same. It does not change. The Unichip doesn't change it because all the tuning is stored here and not here on the car's ECU. And since it's a plug and play, there's no splicing of wires. It's kind of a spaghetti's mess here, but all of these things plug to the particular sensor that they control. So this one is map sensor. So this senses boost. This is how we adjust boost. Throttle sensor. So this goes to the pedal. This is basically your throttle controller. Everything that you've been seeing about throttle control, this is it. It's built into the Unichip. Battery, 12 volts. Obviously, it needs power. Rail pressure sensor. So this is basically also what all the other diesel chips do. DTE, DP chip, race chip, and all of these other chips are kind of dead already. So they control one particular aspect, and that is rail pressure, and rail pressure controls one of the aspects that control how much fuel gets into the engine. So this is also built into the Unichip already. So it's there. You don't need any of those other chips. And then cam sensor. This one interfaces with the camshaft. This controls injection timing rather, not ignition, because it's a diesel. So we can advance or retard the injection timing. And then we have boost sensor. This one plugs in directly into the turbo actuator. So we can control boost with this one. Along with the map sensor, there are 2 ways to control boost. On the remap, we cannot raise boost that much because there is a limit to what the program can do, what the software and the numbers are able to do. So yeah, we tried raising the boost, check engine comes out. So controlling it through the sensor here, through this and the map sensor in conjunction is a better way of controlling boost directly. So yeah. So as you can see, Unichip takes the place of your throttle sensor and your diesel chip and a lot more others that nobody else can control. Only Unichip can control it. So this is why on the previous Ranger Raptors that we do, we get 40, 50. The best one we've done is ever 60 horses on a pure stock car. So this is the reason why we use Unichip, and we prefer Unichip for tuning the Ford. So, and again, Ford, as we all know, is a real pain in the ass. It will check engine if you sneeze on it. So anytime that something goes wrong, we can remove this one. There will be absolutely no trace of it. They will not know, the dealership will never know that the Unichip was installed, unless you tell them, of course. So it all goes back to stock. You can warranty it, and once everything's been solved, we can reinstall it back. We've had some instances before with the older Ranger Raptors and the older FX4, the 2-liter ones. They came in they got a letter from Ford that said, oh, we need to update your software. They got a letter from Ford saying that, oh, we need to update your software, blah, 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 technical service bulletin. So car came in, we removed the Unichip, went there, updated the software, came back, then we just had to retune it because there's some difference between version 1 and version 2 of the software that they did. But again, they did it under warranty, and because it has a Unichip, they don't know that it's been messed with. Because if it was remap, they would see it was remap, and then if they write over their new update over it, your remap is gone. It goes out the window. Yeah, that has happened already before with several Fords also. They went into the dealership for maintenance. They did everything, brakes, check suspension, change oil. What they failed to notice, there's a little line there that says software update, which they signed the paper to, and then they updated the software, and the remap that we did is gone. So they have to come back here, pay again for the remap because it's a totally new job. I cannot write the old map back into the new version. You cannot. It doesn't work that way. Even in software, new version goes over old version. Old version cannot go on top of new version. It's just the way that it is. So again, that's why we use Unichip. And then the beautiful part about this one is if you have the older, first gen Ranger Raptor, you decide to get the Unichip, this one, and then you sell your Ranger Raptor, get the latest one, this one will carry over. It's exactly the same Unichip, it's exactly the same harness. So unlike Remap, you have to pay twice. This one, no. You pay once and it's forever. And from the looks of it, this 2-liter engine will be the mainstay of Ford for another generation to come. Because that's what they have with the 3-liter one. So the 2.2 and 3.2, it spanned actually two generations. So this one pretty much should span another generation going forward. And if it does, hopefully it should still technically be the same software and everything. But if not, then we'll just get a new harness. But the Unichip will still be the same 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So it's not a wasted purchase. Okay, this is the finished Unichip installation. So you can see all the harness goes into the sensors that are needed. So ignition cam is over there, map is over there, turbo's over there, so on and so forth. Throttle, we have to thread it inside because it really plugs into where the pedal is. So this is all of it. By the way, plug and play doesn't mean fast. As you can see, it doesn't install in 5 minutes. That's just YouTube, but it takes about, give or take, 15, 20 minutes to plug everything in. The hard one is actually the one going inside the cabin for the throttle. That's the one that takes the most time. As you can see, the Unichip space here, the vehicle's ECU is actually over there. So that's a welcome change because the previous generation Raptors had the ECU underneath the fuse box. So you have to remove the battery, the fuse box, and a bunch of other things to just be able to reach the ECU. So at least now it's just there. If well, not that we're remapping it. So this is it, and then there's a little plug here where we plug it into the laptop, and that's where we're going to be tuning it. And we already did a baseline dyno for this one. It came out to, I think, 177 horse, and then we just finished the exhaust. So we did a dual V6 US style exhaust on this one, so it's left and right. So we use Borla black tips. You can use chrome also, and if you want quad tips, you can quad tip it also. The number of tips actually has no effect on power, so it's only aesthetics and looks, nothing else. It doesn't even affect the sound. I really don't understand why people think that the more tips you have, the louder it will be. It's not a pipe organ. So there you go. You can actually, and here's also another thing. Your Raptor does not have an exhaust tip. In fact, the exhaust does not even go all the way to the back of the car. It stops pretty much after the rear doors. It cuts there, nothing else, no more. If you go, normally go to your car, go to the back now, you take a look, you will not find any exhaust tips, you will not find a rear pipe. Well, that's just the way it is. So most people want to have the looks that come with a full exhaust, and that's what we give them. Oh, and by putting that extra section of pipe, it's not going to create any more restriction. It's not going to create any more back pressure or whatever you want to call it. And the correct size for these things is 3 inches. It's not 2.5. It's not 275. It's 3 inches. I don't care who these people are on the internet saying it. They are all wrong. We are the only people who are correct because we are the only ones who actually dyno it every step of the way. And then we'll show you that. So stock of 177, we'll dyno it with the exhaust on, and then we'll dyno it again after we tune it with the Unichip. Okay, so here are the results. So this red line here, this is stock. So this is 177 horse right here. This green line here is our exhaust. So from 177, this is, by the way, this is peak horsepower. It goes all the way up to, this should be around 19, this should be around 190, 193. So that's pretty much 170, 193. It's about 15 horses here at 3,800 RPM. But if you notice here at the beginning of the chart at 2.2 to about 2.8 RPM, you get about 60 to 1, oh, double. 60 to 150 horse, 80 to 1, so that's double already, 80 to 60, 120 to 168, 17, 168-ish. So if you take the average of this thing, because when you want to talk about horsepower gauge, it's not one single number. It has to be a range because the RPM is a range also. So you average the difference between these two lines for every RPM. So it's basically this entire thing. This one, this whole thing. This is your exhaust gain. So looking at this, it's 20 to 25 horses on average for just the exhaust of a Raptor. And then this dotted line here is after we tune it with Unichip. So as you can see here, again, let's start at 2 RPM. We went from 60 to, that's pretty much 180. That's times 3 of the horsepower from the get-go. And then it's pretty much consistently flat here all the way up to 36 RPM. So from the exhaust, so 140 to 180, that's 40 horse. 160 to 240 horse. 165 to 220, 50 horse. That's that's 190 to 250. That's 60 horse right there. But if you take it from stock, it's more than 60 actually. So total with the exhaust and the Unichip, 50, 60 horses on average is what we see on the Ranger Raptor. This is on the high. This is already on the high side. We can try to go for 260, maybe 265 horses, but if by doing it we trigger a check engine because the boost is too much, the fuel pressure is too much, then we back off. So 250 is pretty much the average of what we expect from exhaust and Unichip mods. So again, nobody else can do this for the Raptor. Only we can do it because only we have Unichip. And for the 3-inch exhaust, well, we already showed you that we're the ones who do it correctly. So why go to anybody else?